Hey everybody, welcome to our webinar with Quintana Roo on how to get the most out of your triathlon bike. Um, Working Triathlete has a great partnership with Quintana Roo. They're just down the road from us in Chattanooga. We're based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and we have many athletes on Quintana Roo bikes, the time trial bikes, as well as the road bikes and the OBED gravel bikes. So we're excited to talk with the Quintana Roo crew and learn more about sort of how they think about triathlon bikes, especially, and we'll pick their brains about, fits. I'd love to know what kind of you're seeing among the pointy end. I know that some of the people at the pointy end are on the team here, and I know you work closely with some, pros on the team, and we're excited to dig in a little bit to understand maybe even where, you know, what's the future of triathlon bikes? What do they look like? Um, but could you guys introduce yourselves? Let's talk about your role at Quintana Roo.
So I am Sam Voigt. I manage the all things Quintana Roo with the team, um, team sales, tech questions, anything any athletes need help with, whether it be swim or bikes, and then typically do a lot on the road. So I'm a face that you will typically see out there, along with a few other of our sales and tech reps.
All right, and I'm Brad DeVaney. Um, Old hat here, have been around for a long, long time. Stay typically focused in product development, but always of service and stay super, super motivated and influenced by you guys, our athletes. That just super, super. Everyone here, I think you guys know, is just super passionate about the sport. I more so um, get really personal with it, with individuals. It's you guys that are the source of a lot of our service, our programs, our innovations, product developments, and we're the secret sauce and the greatest thing that I can try to accomplish um, is checking all those boxes, being having extremely large ears, and working day in and day out on what makes your bike split and your run split as best it can be. So I just want to show my appreciation to all of you because it's athletes like yourselves that really feed my passion in what we're doing here.
Well, we appreciate that, and we definitely have noticed the. I mean, each generation of QR bikes, they seem to improve by quite a bit. I know the latest, the VPRI, it's athletes are loving it, and yeah, we're really excited to partner with you guys and continue to do so. Um, so anybody on this webinar, feel free to hop in, jump in, ask questions about anything related to triathlon bikes and Quintana Roo. We have a presentation sort of just kind of created, but it's going to be more of like a back and forth and conversation. Um, but so I'm sharing my screen. Can everybody see that? Did I share it yet? One sec. Let me share desktop two, and then we can get going here. Um, So we just made the introductions, but like I said, Working Triathlete, we partner with Quintana Roo, and it has been a really fun, awesome relationship. Athletes go very fast on the QR bikes, but we want everybody on the call and on the team on Working Triathlete to walk away from this webinar with a better understanding of how to get the most out of their triathlon bike. So to start, I'm curious if Sam or Brad, you have how do you think about bike fit? So this first slide, it's we kind of want to talk about fit, position, and power. And I know that QR bikes, they're super adjustable. But, when you're designing a bike, sort of how do you think about a triathlete fitting on the bike?
Sam, I don't want to be rude. You want to say something because I'm getting ready to go like a waterfall here.
So bike fit, there's not one correct fit. There's a range that an athlete is going to fall within. And obviously, the ultimate goal of the fit is to find where you are the most comfortable, going to perform the best while getting good power numbers, or good, comfort versus aerodynamics. So, with that being said, we do try and make the bikes as adjustable as possible to hit a good fit range for each of the sizes. And I know you've got a lot of insight and
Yep.
thoughts on this.
Yep.
So I'll let you jump in.
So anyone feel free to pop in with very specific questions here. Um, and I asked the question, and I want to show support of both camps here. Who works very closely with a fitter who is competent and very on point with your needs on the bike and responds to your feedback very well. And then those of you who fully comprehend bike fit, maybe have some ideas in that, maybe follow some forums or threads on bike fit, and are very interested in it, not as an athlete on the bike, but probably spend too much time off the bike thinking about it and making adjustments to the bike
Mm.
that may or may not support your bike split. So there are two camps there. And I just pointed out something that I caution is that if you're going to a fitter for a baseline, starting with a very good logical baseline fit that a professional has helped you with and has consulted you on, and you want to make tweaks and adjustments with that, I think you're in the best space. Just be sure to reciprocate, be sure to communicate that, be on retainer with that fitter, so that a fit is not a one-time process.
Mhm.
You're not going to just go pay $400 and get the magic pill and everything's perfect from there on. You want to have a relationship with that professional who has years of in-depth experience. They've seen the trends come and go, and they can best help you with the questions that you bring them, more so than the statements or demands that you bring them. And so it needs to be a very two-way conversation with you and your fitter, as it is with any other professional you consult, whether it be financial, whether it be medical, whether it be whatever, support and team building we're looking to create. I think that's a relationship that's very important for all athletes who seek that. If you just hop on the bike and you're a natural, you don't have ailments or quirks within how you use the bike. That happens for some, and they don't need to work through fit questions or changes or needs very often. And that is where, from a creation standpoint, I would love for everyone to know what their typical saddle height, and that can range from course to course. The type of course you're going to ride, you may want to vary that saddle height a little bit based on pedaling style, pedal stroke, if you're into pedal analysis. So if you're racing a Nice versus Arizona, there's bike setup changes that a psychotic fit person as myself would probably want to tweak and adjust. And then also in the cockpit where we might make some adjustments or wholesale changes on extensions or grip or bar wrap or things of that nature. This typically happens more so in long course. You're going to be out there for far more hours. And so those creature comforts are the baseline that we're looking for. And they also link right into where we're going to go further in the conversation, and that is hydration nutrition. So having that baseline of fit capability, I always want to create a bike so that if you're getting it out of the box and all you know is your saddle height, that you could set the bike at medium position as far as fore aft of your saddle rails, fore aft of our seat post hardware. You could hit that middle position and have a beautiful baseline at the height that you would ride. And then we would essentially do something similar at the cockpit. You probably got more specific cockpit numbers that you follow. And if you look at our Fit Ready sheet, I've crafted that sheet in a way that it is for the traveling athlete, so that setup parameters are far easier to attain than if you're looking at a retool fit sheet that is very complex and looked at from an outsider's perspective of someone who's making those adjustments for you. I want the bikes to come out of the travel bag and be very easy to hit the fit numbers as you disassemble the bike and make it work for the traveling athlete. I think our system and our method of presenting the dimensions on the page are far more supportive of taking some of the mystery and oh, how did I why doesn't my bike feel right? I've got it out of the bag, I gave it a pre-ride, and now I'm 2 hours into an event, something's just not right. We do everything we can to prevent those scenarios.
And so you mentioned that you might change the saddle height depending on how hilly a course is. What
Yep.
how would you change it? How do you think about that? You know, Nice versus
Yep.
Arizona, like you mentioned, with the
95% of all athletes who ask for saddle height critique recommendation at an event that happens often, folks come up and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, will you look at me on the bike?" And that general statement, "Will you look at me on the bike?" Number
Oh
one,
boy.
number one, I'm looking at where your saddle height is, and we're typically pedaling with very high heels. We're up on our toes as
Mhm.
we would like to generate more power. We want to have that feeling and that sensation that we have when we are maximizing our run. We're very on our toes, we're very heel high. That feels strong, but for 5 to 6 hours, it's not going to have you come off the bike with your best bike split, and it's also going to impede your run split more. So we have to develop. This isn't an adjustment that can be made on Friday and raced on Saturday.
Right.
It's an adjustment that you need to consult with someone who can do the accurate measurements, find out what your heel height is, or in other systems, maybe it's ankle angle, it's knee deflection, it's breaking that extension down into measurable formats that you can make some very logical adjustments. Pay very close also then into hip and torso angle. So those are the key elements that I look at immediately, break down, and see that about 95% of folks need to lower their saddle some amount, whether it's a lot or a little. Um, at Nice, you're going to be, the percentage of your bike split that's going to be escalating, that you're going to be climbing, is quite a bit more. And I see a lot of folks making bike setup considerations, thinking of max speed, where that happens a very small percentage of your bike split. We need to think about those moments that bring you down to 12 miles per hour,
Mhm.
16 miles per hour. Within that window, what portion of your bike split um, is it? Is it 20 minutes? Is it an hour? Is it 2 hours? And then how can we look to help you and maximize? You've got a greater opportunity of gained percentage of bike split in those slower moments than
Right.
at the higher speed moments. I just it breaks my heart to go to a world championship event and people are bolting on, a 64 tooth chain ring because they're talking about descending Javi.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, but there's very little bike split available to be gained, and then that 64 tooth chain ring is really gonna break up your gear ratios for the very critical sections when you're coming back through Waikoloa, and you're trying to turn over a gear, and that next click on the cluster is about a 2 to 3 mile per hour shift. Whereas if you'd kept the 50 or 52 or 50, even a 53 tooth chain ring on there, that one click would only represent, maybe half that in a mile and a half, mile 1.5 to 2.2 miles per hour. So I break this down very, very scientifically when I'm trying to help someone and understanding the gear ratios and the cadences that are expected. And so I just see these theoretical extremes that are
Yes.
considered that are such a small portion of the bike split, and they totally damage the bigger percentage of the bike split.
Great, great points. Over the last 7 days, I've spoken with a handful of athletes. I mean, literally four or five about the two things you're talking about. Whenever anybody sends me a side profile of them on the trainer, literally 95% of the time, like you said, it's lower your saddle. Your saddle's too high, hips are rocking
Yep,
back and forth, the knee
yep,
is
yep,
too extended. Everybody, it feels better. And then I've had many conversations about getting bigger chain rings.
yep.
But like you're saying, when you run the numbers, like you don't, very few athletes need a 60. I mean, you can go even on a 51. I mean, you can still put out
Absolutely.
power going 40 something miles an hour.
Yep.
Cadence has to go higher, but it's people watch the tour, they hear about these outliers and everybody latches onto it. But good. Just out of curiosity, when you look at knee flexion, do you have an angle off the top of your head that you like or a
It's
range
very,
you like to keep?
it's very personal. I'd love to say that there's a magic formula. There are windows that I think we should stay within, but um, yeah, I think typically more if you do a true flexibility test and understand the window that you're working within, and then finding the optimal range for that individual,
Yep,
that more professional approach is better than just blanket angles that should work for everyone.
definitely.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And one question I wanted to ask you guys, as I know that you work with um, many, many athletes, including, athletes at the pointy end. And
Yep.
we always try to be on the cutting edge of, what is the most aerodynamic position. You think about tilting the aero bars up or getting a little bit longer. And what trends have you seen, if, or what comes to mind over the last couple of years? Has people's perspectives towards bike fits changed, or what are you seeing?
Yeah. So history repeats itself
Yeah.
always. We're back to a point where Superman is in vogue. When I
Mhm.
say Superman is in vogue, back in the 90s, we had this war going on the velodrome between two British athletes who were each week, one was chopping the hour record a little bit lower than the other, and they were hitting it with very different aero concepts within the cockpit. Chris Boardman, Graham O'Brien. There's movies written, there's
Yeah.
books written, there's movies that exist on the Flying Scotsman. But there were two positions, the Superman and the Egg. Um, Neither of those are what we found to be most optimal. Um, Superman is in vogue right now, and the person driving that at the pointy end has been Magnus Ditlev. Um, Magnus is one of Extreme Concepts. He's got great resources. He's got a couple of guys working with him that are very exploratory, and they're creating concepts and ideas, and he rides some of those, and it's detrimental to his performance. And I say that with no hesitation, he could be a better athlete if he would find the balance.
Hmm.
And if you want to hear this from a competitor's perspective, go to Slow Twitch. Go back last week. Was it last week? Week before? It did a wonderful article on Christian Hogenhog, a QR athlete.
Yeah.
And poor Christian, he was on the verge of leaving the sport, and he found balance. He's found Zen. Fortunately, he's found that in the time that we've been working together. Um, and he's in a new place, and a part of that is his position. He's not gone with that extreme overextended position. I, as a product developer, absolutely detest the overextended positions because it brings in some safety concerns. The extension extenders are very unsafe items. They're not something I would recommend for anyone on any bar system. Those put loads onto the bars that ISO testing, um, the testing standards that we develop products to, um, does not consider. And I'm trying to make sure that we change and elevate standards, which means your bike gets heavier. If I have to compensate for an aftermarket part that does something bad to your position and does not help your bike split, and it makes your bike more dangerous. I lose sleep over this. This is a terrible scenario from my perspective. But to read Christian's account of how that has not worked for him and how he's found his individual um, performance to improve with better thinking, and it's not just in the bike position. It affects it's it's helping him in other areas as well. So he's in a somewhat of a Zen state. We see his results reflecting that. And he's not an athlete that 3 years ago anyone would have predicted would have be on the escalation path that he's been on. But I just use the cockpit as an example of extreme thinking, just like that of the massive chain rings. Extreme thinking helps no one in triathlon. I
Hmm.
that's in shoes, it's in bike parts, it's in whatever training method. There's a lot of coaching concepts that I just feel like are um, probably a little too much to the extreme, and that we have better performances when we find better balance.
We're uh we're definitely seeing that on the nutrition front as well.
Amen. Yeah, yeah, truly, truly. Yep.
Yeah, everybody wants to try to, guzzle down 150 grams of carbohydrates, but v- pretty much nobody's absorbing it.
Exactly.
So,
Yep. Yep.
and if they are eating that, it's not the case that they're sparing that much glycogen. They're just going to be
Right.
burning more
Right.
carbs, depleting the endogenous stores at the same rate. But it is interesting. Does anybody
So
have any questions about, you know, bike fit or bike fit trends? Anybody on the call have any questions?
I have a question. Um, how often would you recommend kind of reevaluating your bike fit? Because, like for me, I feel like it's been a couple of years, and now and then I'll think about like maybe addressing some stuff with my form as I start to feel like weird niggles in certain spots, but I never
yep.
actually do it. I'm wondering if there's like a regular cadence I should just be like checking in.
It's not so much in cadence, and it's a great question. Fantastic question. It's not so much in cadence. It's something that you can see in your data. So if you see that you're producing um, higher wattage in a bad way, in an inefficient way, that you're having to work harder to achieve a given split, you've got a fit problem. So if your wattage numbers are going up on rides that the splits aren't coming down, that's the clearest indicator you can have that you've got a bike fit issue or a mechanical issue that maybe there's some drag involved, a brake problem. But I typically find that it's been putting on some new extensions or something that a saddle. Saddles have tremendous impact on how we deliver power into the bike. We're looking at very simple physics. It's power in and our end result split on known courses. So just pay attention to your data, and that should give you the indicator. If you're very level with your training, your annual training and performance is very um, it's very routine. That's a little tougher sometimes to find that point in time where you may want to assess something. It typically comes with um, wearing out a saddle or changing aero bar components. So it's your touch points. If you've had changes in the touch points of the bike, definitely, you know that you should be considering a fitter's opinion in how those parts are bolted up and you're using them.
And also to touch on that, pay attention to your body. If you're noticing a little bit of knee pain or neck pain and you're very routine in your position and your riding, that may be an indicator that, hey, maybe I want to make a little tweak here, work with a fitter,
Yep.
reevaluate that position.
Yep. Knowing your influences, I can read an article and I suddenly want to change something on my bike and test it, and I may forget that, a few weeks down the road, what actually created this initial change, and it may be, at a point where I that little bit of lack of memory really hurts me when I get maybe deeper into some mileage that I just start sensing something that I didn't feel before. So Sam's right. Pay attention, just paying attention to your body is always number one.
Thank you.
You got it.
Great points. Anybody else have any questions on fit? If not, we can move on. So the next thing we might want to get into a little bit is, a smart setup, making sure that your equipment choices are wise. So maybe we can just kind of go down the list here. Cockpit configuration. This is definitely a sort of a trendy point of discussion. Monobars, filling that space in between the forearm is, many athletes are striving for that. What are your thoughts on sort of those trends? What do you think about those as it relates to extensions and aerodynamics up there? I know you guys,
I,
the bikes come
Another
with
waterfall
vision.
coming, guys. Yeah, another waterfall coming. Sorry. Sam, anything you want to?
No, I was going to say what I think
Yeah.
you're about to go into. So.
Yeah, so not a new trend. This is something that's been around for a long, long time. Uh, uh, Recent commercial availability, compatibility within bike designs, and so forth,
Mhm.
and a huge focal point within the rules.
Yeah.
Number one, this is a very, as I said before on other topics, very personalized setup choice. Certainly have professional advice going into this. How many fitters are on point with this advice? I question at the moment. Um, it's more yourselves communicating and networking with one another. I think working athletes, networks of coaches, this is where the greatest knowledge base is. However, to guard against extremes, I'm holding a BTA system here with two cages on it. We have some limitation as to what we can mount on this. Um, in total, 2 liters. Who in their right mind needs 2 liters to unbalance their bike, create something of a handling problem? And where is your next hydration or nutrition point coming from? Are you 10 miles away? Are you 100 miles away? So let's, the first thing I'm going to beg you is do not stack all the bottle cages you possibly can onto a BTA system. My suggestion, and we're going to pretend this is the front of the bike. My suggestion is a rear mounted bottle with whatever your preferred mix is. Let that mix be on point. Let it be perfect. Let it be precise. Have backups of this perfect mix behind the saddle and know how many you're going to need. You may be able to do that with 3 of these and need nothing else. Nutrition's very, distance of your event and nutritional choices are very personal. It's very individual. If you need to add some calories, either mount a aero bottle or a gel flask. And let me flip this front of bike. Let me reverse what I just suggested. This is the rear. It's extended. I'm going to suggest either a gel flask or an aero bottle on the underside. We still don't have anything in this front cage. You know where it's coming from. It's whatever you're grabbing at an aid station.
Mm-hmm.
Have an empty compartment. Don't overstuff your luggage. Be able to grab what you need at aid stations to work either with a slurry or concentrated nutrition. So fresh water is the greatest thing we can be grabbing out there to go with what
Yep.
nutrition we want and we need to balance. And that's something that you leave the house with is a fresh water bottle, whatever your premix is, and whatever your slurry is. And so managing a slurry with fresh water is what you've got to master on course. That's where the secret sauce is. You may or may not have enough to manage in your premix bottles.
Mm-hmm.
And in best case scenario, you've got 3 of those. But you're not going to break any rules leaving transition, having an empty water bottle cage so that you can get the very, very valuable ingredient, and that is fresh water.
Sure.
So that's my suggestion. It's not one that works for everyone, but it's a good baseline suggestion that I think people can adjust from.
And that product you're holding, like the water bottle cage holder, like that
Oh, this guy.
bracket, it says QR on it. Do you
Yep.
guys sell that? Is that a product?
We
Yes.
do. We do. This is our BTA system. It bolts directly to the VPRI. It can bolt directly to the VPR,
Okay.
and it can be configured to an XPR.
Mm. Could it
Now,
be configured to non-Quintana Roo bikes if somebody doesn't have a QR, or do they need to get one?
some MacGyvers might figure that out. I love
Yeah.
it. I love the innovation that happens within the sport. We have created it unto standard water bottle mount standards. And so the mounting points are not standard water bottle standards. So that is a little bit QR specific,
Hmm.
but for those wise mechanical minds, you'll figure out our system and our method pretty quickly and have it on your felt in no time.
And so it's possible to, and what about that, the slurry, the Aero bottle you were talking about? Is
Yep.
that just a standard Aero bottle, or is that proprietary
Yeah,
too?
I mean, there's so many out there. I'm just
Yeah.
holding one as a prop.
Yeah.
This is a profile design bottle that I'm very fond of. It holds the bottle in the cage extremely well, whereas some of the Italian versions don't. Um, Giant Bicycles has if you have a Giant dealer nearby, they've had an arrow bottle in their quiver of accessories for a long, long time. It was an old favorite for a number of years, but it also has a little bit of an ejection risk, and that's where I
Mhm.
think this profile product is probably the best out there. But you've really got to practice with it to be able to get this to disengage. I think they did a great job with it.
So is it possible to mount so with the QR, post and bracket that you're attaching the water bottles to, is it
Yep.
possible to attach basically any so you could basically attach them on two bottles on top of each other facing towards you as
Yes, you
as it comes?
can.
Okay.
You can. I think that is a little bit risky from just a payload
Yeah.
standpoint. If you do that, I would suggest two small bottles.
Hmm.
And then also there's the element of fit where I want this bottle not to be level and horizontal and theoretically arrow. I want it to be in plane with the chest.
Hmm.
And then, we somewhat adjust, to the chest a little bit. I don't want you coming in contact with it. That can create some safety issues or part damage issues. So there's some true mechanics and fitter expertise that if you're bolting these on, there's still another layer of detail that can be put into anything. But
Yeah.
there's some elements to this that I think need special attention. We have what's called a riser kit. So the rail that the water bottle cages attached to, that is an accessory. It comes with water bottle cages and bottles. Then there's this riser kit, and that's part of the adjustment when I'm talking about, raising it and lowering it in accordance with the torso. Um, and so those are a couple of items. And then at the entry level, I don't want to dismiss this because this probably applies more to, I would say, over 50% of the athletes. And it's not to say this is a lower level customer. This is to the customer that's expecting the most universal capability and ease of use. This system, I don't know its commercial name. I always know the code names I give stuff as it's a project, so I'm calling it BTA2.
I think we call it the Universal BTA
Okay.
kit or mount.
Yeah.
Universal BTA mount.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this more universal piece is super cool. It incorporates a computer mount.
Mm.
You can run the bottle facing forward, facing rearward, whatever you choose. But you can also add our rail to it or risers to it if you want additional water bottles. Um, I think the single bottle is the most responsible. Stacking up multiple bottles is a little bit risky. Not everyone has the comfort and control of their bike to be managing this, smorgasbord of items um, on the fly. That's a very acquired skill. So being able to roll into an aid station, manage your nutrition, make sure you've got that bottle that you're going to need for the next 10 miles, and off you go, or even do that on the roll is probably the best solution I can suggest to an athlete who's really looking for the larger gains in their event. Um, so having that one bottle here, possibly two, having an integrated computer mount, and that this will fit essentially any aero bars out there on the market. It's highly modifiable. I haven't promoted that commercially, but I think this works for small athletes, large athletes, and it has the ability to shuttle back and forth within various aero bar systems. I've even created it so that, and like I said, we're not promoting this, but it can be trimmed, it can be customized. And once again, those MacGyvers that create innovation are the ones that I love the most. And so this shape can be changed according to your aero bar system. You shouldn't need to. It's a wonderful universal fit, kind of puts everything in that nice comfort zone. But if you're a little more extreme on a setup or position, it's capable. So a lot of different fit and nutrition components that we've created this season. I came back from Kona completely fired up because I was seeing the misuse of some parts that we use in the gravel space to add water bottles to your down tube and seat tube. And those things are super flimsy. You need a down tube to support these little thin brackets. I was like, that's painful to see. We need a spec system. We need, intentional design so that, that just had to happen. I was at our room every night, you know, regretting having to work with these parts that I knew weren't satisfactory, but they needed to get through,
Yeah.
a 4.5 hour bike split. So it's like, all right, I'll make exceptions and go back to the office and create some new items that are really outside of our space, but now they are. They're
Very,
well within our space, and we're never going to back away from this.
that's cool. That
Yeah.
universal mount is really intriguing. That's I'll have to check that out a little bit more. That can make sense for a lot of athletes.
Oh, it's one of those things that from your perspective, you probably want a few of these around, and it's just something that you can easily attach to the bike, and it turns directly into some bike split for whomever's enjoying it.
Very cool. And then Elizabeth just asked if you have your pre-mixed bottle and gel flask mounted and pick up a water bottle at the aid station, are you subject to the penalty for having over 2 liters between the aero bars? Um, I would think so if you have, well,
I
it
never
depends.
suggest more than one
Right.
liter bottle.
What's that?
I never suggest more
Then one
than
1 liter bottle.
one
Yep.
liter bottle. If you've got a gel flask, now you've got just a number of ounces, if you
Yep.
will, and then leave this open so
Mhm.
that you can take on aid station water bottles.
And then is the assumption that if you add like the liter bottle that you already have in there, plus an aid station bottle, plus the flask, does that have to be under 2 liters?
Total has to be under 2 liters.
Okay,
Yep. You'll never exceed 2 liters if you leave transition with that single bottle and a arrow bottle or a flask.
got it.
Yep.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah, they're not going to hand you liter bottles at aid stations.
Right.
Yep.
Um, and then moving on. So, I mean, tire width, pressure and rolling resistance. Are you, I don't know what, I think, do you guys supply a specific type of tire when you deliver a bike? Or what are
We
you?
we do. We've on the newer generation bikes, the XPR, the VPR, VPRI, we have taken into account modern wider tires or modern wider rims and the trend of a little bit wider tires.
Mhm.
Benefits you're going to get from running a wider tire is more compliance because you can run a little lower pressure,
A lot lower pressure.
a lot lower pressure, and that is also in concert with a wider, more aero rim. We've spec'd our bikes to be able to clear up to a 30 millimeter tire, but we do ship them out with 28 millimeter tires, as most aero wheels these days are optimized for a 28 millimeter tire.
Yep.
And what tire do you guys ship the wheels with? Do you know
Um, it
offhand? Is
It,
it
it depends on the model and component spec. If you're,
Hmm.
coming in at an entry level XPR with, 105 level, components, we're going to do, I believe it's a Continental Ultra Sport 3 tire. And then for the higher end builds and bikes with tubeless tire setup. So if you're doing a XPR with an NV or a zip wheel with a hookless rim, we're going to set those up tubeless out of the gate, and we use the Continental GP 5000, TR or their tubeless spec race tire.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's going to be Continental or Vittoria tires
Mhm.
throughout our spec range. Tubeless is a tremendous benefit for those of us that have been using tubeless for quite a while. Occasionally, usually 2 to 3 times a year, we're going to pull the tires off the rims to refresh the sealant and clean the inside of the tire. But that's the point where you realize how many flats you had that the sealant took care of.
Hmm.
And I've had as many as 5 flats in a tire that I never had to stop and never knew I had the flat. I was suspect because I'm a little bit sensitive to the smell of sealant. And there've been moments where I was like, "Whoa, did I just get a whiff of sealant?" And
Ooh.
you start looking at that moment in the rotation, especially on slower off-road type riding. You can notice this, but you'll start looking for wet spots on your tires, and you know that that system is really working great, and then you start paying attention. Do I need to stop and put that leak or that seal point at 6 o'clock and make sure that it seals up so that I don't have a pressure imbalance or something I need to correct the pressure. And those are some of the things we think about off road um, on the race course or basically any time on the road. You're still just ripping along. You never know it. You never think about it. So um, yeah.
Good points. It's pretty much everybody's going tubeless, and I think
Tubeless is
they're
fantastic.
enjoying
The
it.
the fastest combinations I've measured in the wind tunnel have been on 28C. You've got to have a great wheel tire combo
Right.
pairing. My testing does have influence on the specs that we sell, and
Hmm.
so we're pairing products that we know perform well. We're doing that homework for you,
Yep.
and so that's very, very important to us, and it's something that goes unspoken far too often. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean those are great tires. The GP 5000s TR and
Oh,
obviously Vittoria, of course, the speeds are super low rolling resistance also.
yep.
Very good. Obviously good choices. You're gonna go fast on a Quintana Roo.
Always. Yeah.
Does anybody have any other questions on equipment at this point? Nope.
And one note to throw in when we're talking about tire pressure and tubeless versus tubed, it's very important to always know what your max pressure
Mm,
rating on the wheel is and not just read what a tire says. I
right.
can't tell you how many times an athlete looks at the sidewall on their tire and it says 120 psi and they just overinflate those wheels.
Yeah, that's crucial. Good point, Sam. Um, if you're running tubeless, if you're on 28Cs, I'll give you a starting tire pressure. And as everything, start with a great baseline and work from there. Because a wheel may feel softer, do not think that it's slower. I love this generation that we're living in where I get to go through the process of introducing someone to tubeless. Those first experiences, they're saying, "Oh, wow, this feels flat. It feels wrong. More is better. Surely that crisp, harsh feel on the road is faster." And as a starting point for tire pressures, regardless of what your body weight is, I tell everybody if you're on at least 28C tires, start at 55 psi and
Wow.
adjust from there.
Mhm.
And 2 psi up or down is going to be a pretty remarkable difference. So it's very, very important to experience lower pressures. Um, and then it's definitely an experiential thing. I can sit here and go on and on about the benefits technically and share data. It means nothing until you've experienced it.
Where do you think, somebody who's, I don't know, 165 pounds, riding 28s, on, like an Envy rim, say tubeless, at what point does the PSI get too low where rolling resistance starts going up? Or yeah, it sounds like 55 you think is maybe the sweet spot.
It's a starting point. That 165-pound athlete on Chattanooga roads, I'm going to expect them to settle out at probably 52 to 53 psi in the rear, and then front is simply salt to taste. It is. We can talk about performance values and talk about cycling wheel sets and tires, as a lot of folks like to discuss them in motorsports, talking about
Mhm.
traction and weight bias and all the things. It is truly a for those of us who care, and those of us who care, we care a lot. We want to create a certain feel in that front end, and for me, it's under braking in a corner. I don't want to
Mhm.
sense or feel any wrinkling in the tire, so I'm going to run it probably 2 psi above where I've experienced a little bit of crush or wrinkling in the tire.
Got it.
It's nothing I would have ever considered in the 30 years prior,
Hmm.
riding non-tubeless.
That's great insight. That's pretty,
It's the greatest paradigm shift
yeah, oh
in
yeah.
our industry. We can talk about electronic shifting, lots of other great innovations. Tubeless tires are the greatest shift, and the most dangerous and delicate
Mhm.
of technologies that we could just put out beneath you and expect you to do it right. It's impossible for that to have happened, and I'm glad there's enough safety factor. Well, actually, we still question the safety factor because, as Sam said, there's some recommended inflation on some tires that are tube only, and it's been rigged up tubeless,
Hmm.
and there's some misleading information on the product itself.
Yeah. So my suggestion is always do the research on your wheels and figure out what that max inflation point for your set of wheels is,
Do it by the wheels. You're
and
right.
don't exceed that.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep. Start with the wheel. Or just listen to the overgrown Southerner at QR who says start at 55 and go from there. But that's very size and width dependent. So
Yeah, and that's right. So that's 28s. If somebody was running 25, say, what would you add 5 PSI to that or so, or what do you think?
I'm going to go to 63.
Okay,
Yep. Yep.
makes
And
sense.
it's not a linear value. It's just a scattered chart of numbers that,
Right. I
yeah, yeah.
Cool. Anybody have any questions on equipment or anything we talked about thus far before we move on? Nope. I think we talked about most of these, and I know we're approaching an hour, so um, we could probably skip this slide. And maybe this is interesting. We could maybe combine this slide with the next one, just talk about, the evolution of design at Quintana Roo, maybe, and some of the really cool bells and whistles on the bikes and kind of how you're thinking about aerodynamics and why, a VPR or a VPRI is among the fastest frames out there.
Yeah. So a world that I love, external storage. I truly love external top tube storage.
Hmm.
I love external hydration. They work for me personally. Um, I think it's the most capable, the most versatile, the most affordable products out there, and our bikes that are designed with external elements have some advantage. One of those advantages being in volume and flexibility. You can overstuff external, whereas you cannot overstuff internal storage. And these are the two storage elements within VPRI. and then the VPR, XPR storage items. So it's just a little indicator, the
Mhm.
physical components that not everybody gets to see held side by side.
Yeah.
So me personally, because all of this is very personal, me personally, I'm still a value with the external solutions, and those would be my personal choices,
Hmm.
um, within our product range. But there again, train me up and and put me on course more often. I am going to migrate to the VPRI, where um, I can really become more efficient and turn a faster bike split when challenged to do so. When I challenge myself to do so. So that's just top tube storage, and that's just design elements within the bike. The other piece of it, of course, is internal hydration. So
Yeah.
we were talking about all of that BTA system earlier. All of that was focused on external, giving you the benefit of an internal bottle. It's the same material as the water bottles that we're accustomed to. It does not require fighting against a vacuum with a bladder, and that is positive and negative, whether you're withdrawing or trying to fill. It's super easy to fill. It's a very open system that you can just splash. We've made a provision actually for um, bottle tops, bottle heads. This center section, you should be able to jam either the tip of a water bottle, whether it be an aid station bottle or a standard water bottle. You've got a target here to inject that water super
Mhm.
fast, and then the cover comes around and
Oh,
it's back
cool.
on that fast. So we don't want you having to, mess and fuss with a more difficult system. Um, And then the hose management, we've got clips and magnets and lots of different options there depending on your cockpit. It's very customizable. We always have those accessories available, whether it's integrated into your bike with the VPRI, or if you just simply need magnets and multiples. I never discourage having a couple of magnets, a mid hose magnet and then a tip hose magnet. I think work really well. And those are custom setup suggestions that I think are super important. And that applies to all models. Is hose systems, whether you're using something on the VPR and XPR, the profile area hydration system is pretty darn fast. I have measured some reasonable wattage gains with that big bottle out there on the front, properly set up, properly fitted to the bike. You can squeeze out some crazy efficiency with that. It's something I thought I would be missing going into the BPRI. I was knowing that component wasn't going to be out there. I had my work cut out for me to create a faster system where I didn't have this cheater component out on the front that a lot of people view it as. And I've even had folks go out and create their own data, and they'll run that bottle empty because they
Mm.
will know that it's something that can create some lower wattage, and therein is why there's been so much argument and discussion about rules. So when folks are misusing components, if you're going to put a bottle on the bike, drink from it, please, because we do create some rule disruption when we start misusing the components. Um, so therein, we like to know these facts and know these tricks and these hacks and these setup tips within our own bikes. And I also like to know the capability of our customers' bikes. And I'm often acquiring a customer's bike, and I'll go out and figure out every element I can as to where that bike may have advantage or disadvantage, and that will, sometimes roll into consideration for future versions of our own or existing components that we're creating for our current products. So,
Great stuff. I like that. And can you just pull that out and clean it? or how does that?
Yeah, it's super easy. We don't remove the black portion from the bottle, but a bottle brush will fit through this nozzle port I
Okay,
was talking about. So very easy to get a bottle brush in there and actually clean it out nicely. I think it's a little easier to clean than a standard water bottle once you've had a little bit of practice with it.
sounds good. And then one just to
Okay.
one item to briefly touch on, the so that with the area hydration, is it is that counting as one of the liter bottles potentially, or can you
It
run
is.
2 1 liter bottles additionally on that? Or
No,
okay,
that's part of your front hydration.
got it,
So it
got it.
does take up a big portion of your allowable volume.
Okay.
Now, it is a great place for fresh water. So if you want to go out empty and use it as your fresh water vessel, fantastic. And that's where this component has a true friend in that area hydration bottle. So just because this more universal BTA system doesn't have the capability of holding 3 water bottle cages, doesn't mean that it's inadequate,
Mhm.
because this is often paired with some other form of a under aero bar hydration system.
Got it. Makes
Yep.
sense.
Yep.
Cool. Um, does anybody have any other questions on the equipment side of things, hydration, or anything else? I know we're at 12:02 and allocated 60 minutes to this. Anybody have questions? No? Then feel free. I don't know if you guys have to hop off now or if you have a few more minutes, but is there anything else that you wanted to talk about as it relates to, you know, advances to the tri bikes over in new versions, say VPRI versus prior versions, as it relates to the frame? And I know that we talked about or emailed about this, but the sounds like the Q box is legal now. Um,
Yep.
so
Yep. Never wasn't,
okay.
but there was a forced decision for a short period there. There was a forced decision between Q box and rear hydration.
Yes.
That separation of the two. Fortunately, we took the approach. We have athletes, we have rule makers, and rule enforcers. And our first, seeing that athletes banded together, um, primarily on Slow Twitch, and became, made formal requests there. I thought that was beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
Hmm.
We were in support of that and actually fed um, information, reason, and data into the logic that was joined there. Um, our true first step was to go to the rule enforcers and be in support of them and understanding of their challenges.
Hmm.
Um, and because they have a seat at the table with the rule makers, our support and encouragement allowed them to go in without too much fanfare, um, carrying our logic. And very, very quickly, we saw some addendums and some
Hmm.
updates written on those rules, because we created a family of ourselves and at least 4 other brands
Hmm.
that we shared design types with. And we wanted to speak for all of those athletes, not just our own. And I think that coming together of the industry that way worked out pretty beautifully. And very, very happy that things worked in the way that they did. It was more the personal side of it and all of the cooperation, in addition to the fact that all of our athletes could use their bikes the way they were designed and intended for the purpose of nutrition and safety. The Q box is not there as a cheater element. It's there because we had a pro athlete years ago who could create um, a bundle of essentials the size of a bale of hay beneath her saddle, And as much as I loved and adored her as an athlete, I wanted to help her with some bike split, and the Q box evolved. And that just giving her a space that had some limit, and it provided all the essentials and then some, is in a very integrated, easy to use format. Therein is the Q box. So it is essentials. Those are very necessary items. If they're tethered under the saddle along with hydration and those sort of things, it can become unsafe. So,
Sure.
yep,
Right. That makes sense.
yep, yep. And we don't want to have to choose between emergency essentials and nutrition essentials. And that understanding from
Mhm.
the rule makers and the rule enforcers, they heard us very clearly on that plea, is in that our athletes, ourselves, we wouldn't have to make choices and compromise nutrition or safety.
It's a great perspective. I'm glad that they are allowing hydration and a Q box now.
That's right.
That seems a
Yep.
no-brainer, but I'm glad they
Yep.
came. Um, and to close, I know that you guys brought some bikes in maybe into the office, and we're gonna show them. Did you guys want to maybe briefly talk about the differences between the XPR, VPR, VPRI, and whatever else you'd like?
Yeah, so we've got some bikes set up here, and we can start with this VPRI. We've got. Do you want
No, 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 go ahead.
Okay, so we've got a good setup here. This is just our Ultegra Di2 version of it. We have a couple different cockpit configurations based on athletes' needs. This one here is set up with the Vision Metron bar with the Vision Pro extensions. We've made where fit starts the engine position very adjustable in that you've got adjustment of the saddle rails on the clamp and then adjustment of the clamp on the seat post itself.
That is reversible.
Yep, that is reversible. So if
Oh,
you need the
nice.
fore or the aft position. On the
Wow.
VPRI, we built this to kind of be that top end spec'd out bike. We wanted it to do it with as many of the upgrades as we think an athlete truly will make or need on their bike. So we do, make sure the wheels have ceramic bearings in there, do the ceramic speed, oversized pulley wheels, as well as pairing it with the ceramic speed bottom bracket. Just little things to save some watts there. And then also we do power meters. So on your Dura-Ace and SRAM Red bikes, you get dual-sided power, whereas on the Ultegra, you're doing a single-sided power meter, which we use the 4i power meters on the Shimano components. Um, as we showed you before, there's a internal bottle in here, and then you've got your top tube storage. And do you have anything else to add about that one, Brad?
That's great.
And then from there, your VPR is going to be, a similar
Same bar system.
similar bike with the same bar system. Your top tube storage is external. You lose the internal hydration, but you've still got plenty of options on the frame behind the saddle, the bar system or BTAs, or the out front area hydration on that VPR. And then from there, we kind of drop down to the XPR, which is same frame and fork design as the VPR, just a little different modulus carbon. We do this one with a
Same and different.
same and different.
Yeah,
Same and
VPR is elevated. It is a lighter, sleeker set of cross sections in design.
Mhm.
So if I'm European and I'm doing a lot of climbing
Mhm.
and I want to build the ultimate climbing tri bike, I'm going to go with the VPR.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
And then in terms of the spec, the VPR, you're getting the higher end Dura-Ace and Ultegra Di2 component spec, SRAM component specs as well. Whereas on your XPR, you've got the Ultegra Di2, the SRAM Force, but you also have a lower end 105 mechanical or 105 Di2 spec to bring the price point down a little bit. We also spec it with a few different profile design bar systems. So this is a carbon cockpit option that we have with just the 35 SLC extensions. You can do a little bit more molded profile design in the 52 ASC, or the base is the Wing 10A, which is a solid alloy aero bar system with the same shape extensions, just aluminum versus carbon. So this one, similar to the VPR, you can do an out front area bottle system. You can use that universal BTA mount. You've got a similar saddle rail and setup seat clamp, sorry, on this XPR.
Rotor power,
Yep.
a lot of different component options come in as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then just one of our other bikes that we've brought into the space. We've always had a road bike option for those who compete in ITU draft legal triathlon. And we have just done the service course, which is our newer aero road bike. So we've got one of those right here.
Those are beautiful. I saw them in person when Jenna and Miguel stayed over at our house for a week, and I'm gonna get one soon. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's very advanced road geometry. It's on point with positions that Pro Tour riders are innovating at the moment, and it falls right into our space. So steeper seat tube angles, longer cockpits. It's it's a fantastic spec. We're really fired up about it. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Sounds good. And then one question I had just to dig into the difference between the XPR and maybe like the VPR, VPRI. And I'm
Mhm.
asking this maybe from the perspective of, well, actually, Caroline is on this call. So Caroline is a professional triathlete. She qualified for the World Champs as a pro at Penn State, actually, and she has an XPR. And we did a lot of math. I mean, I went on Best Bike Split and we dug in a little bit to figure out what the penalty was going to be, because the XPR is heavier than the VPR and the VPRI. So Caroline's
Doesn't
probably
have to
out on a
be.
run listening, but
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
it doesn't have to be. Okay.
Doesn't have to be because the frame is one of your smaller weight components of the
Hmm.
system. So depending on your wheels, the wheels are the greatest weight component in your bike system. Um, so, an XPR with, you know, a set of 40-ish millimeter super aero wheels may outperform a VPRI with 60s.
Hmm.
So,
Right.
how that bike is spec'd and built, and then overall position and setup, where every bit is capable
Mhm.
and may actually be able to exceed in some scenarios with an XPR. So,
Yeah.
Good. And that's
yeah,
and
it's not just a wholesale model change buys you speed. It,
sure.
it comes down to the setup capability.
Because the geometry and the if you were to test just the frame in the wind tunnel, do you think it's comparable to the VPR and VPRI? Pretty much the same.
Yes, yes. So
Okay.
we would come down to position of the athlete, the bar
Right.
system attached to them, their touch point. Um, and so I might see as good as, if not better numbers on an XPR than I would a VPRI. The one thing that can happen with a VPRI, because it's such a lower stack bike, some folks fall a little bit victim to too low of stack. Whereas you've naturally got a little bit of stack designed into the
Hmm.
XPR. With VPR, first thing folks are doing is extreme stacking the bars, and that's just kind of the nature of what its design intent was. But in the smaller athletes, they can actually find maybe a position they couldn't in an XPR. So it's once again very athlete specific.
Sure.
Yep.
Well, that's encouraging, I think, to Caroline and people who have XPRs right now.
Yep.
Um, but
Yeah,
obviously,
a big element, one comparison, and Sam's right there to catch it, is the fork difference. So a little more weight in this VPRI style fork, with all this aero profile going on.
mm,
But this is like maybe one of the best road performance forks ever created that we've got hidden into this triathlon bike, and it makes it's the right fork for the right system, and it there again achieves possibly a lighter system weight. So
ah,
a lot of opportunity. The XPR is our most capable triathlon bike, when it comes to um, finding that highest performance setup for all athletes, not just a specific set. So yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, I think the BPR has more limitations. It is perceived as the highest performance, as it should be. It is possible of the most extreme lab numbers. But there again, in reality, the capability of XPR is broader than VPRI.
Sure. I mean, we've had athletes go very fast on on all of those bikes, and I mean the XPR. I mean, we've had, well, I think Jack won Ohio on it, and yeah, I mean the XPR is also fast. It's it's a toss up. Like you're talking about, components matter probably more, and position matters more than
Well, and you look
right.
at the bar system, the bar system that we're showing here
Yeah.
is a carbon, it's not entry level, but it is a carbon, very universal base bar with clip-ons. You
Hmm.
can put a fully integrated bar system on an XPR.
Sure.
That's part of its beauty and its capability, is that it is capable. Is the VPRI available or capable of a standard bar system? No, it has some limitations.
Hmm.
It's a very thin subset of parts that we've created compatibility with. So
Makes sense.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, does anybody else on the call have any questions? Oh, cool. Did uh did you guys, Sam or Brad, have anything else you wanted to cover?
Um,
Cover.
I'm good for about two
Yeah.
more hours. You
2 more hours?
I've got it in me. You know, dealing with endurance athletes. Let's see what you got.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe the last thing to talk about. So we talked about the Quintana Roo lineup, and so, but you also, are you involved in the design of, well, OBED, Lightspeed, and all of those? I know a number of athletes have purchased OBED, gravel bikes. Um, so how is that division doing? I know that was one question an athlete asked. How is OBED
How
doing?
bad doing? Really good, really good. Holy cow! So we're mid swing of fun adventure events. We've just done Unbound and Steamboat, and um, Obed's doing great. We've got a lot of new products in the pipeline there, but the existing products are doing wonderful. Um, and Lightspeed, we just keep a very nice trickle of new going on there, and then it's the cool thing when folks love something that we may have taken out of the product range. We have no problem in recreation or creation of a new version of. So seeing us put out the Gisalo, in a limited edition format, that was a bike that was super super popular early 2000s. World's lightest titanium bike, kind of
Hmm.
viewpoint on that. But then we created a modern version that was fully disc braked, um, and that's called the Col de Ray. So super elite road models there. Um, and then our ability to flex and move with trends, tire clearances went up pretty drastically in the gravel space. And so some updates in our Flint and Toscano and other models was pretty easy for us to accommodate and make some tooling changes, some process changes, and it's just been absolutely wonderful on the side of Lightspeed and OBED.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are great bikes. When I toured the factory right before Chattanooga, I saw those and the colors that you guys are able to create on the Lightspeed bikes are pretty neat by I guess electrocuting them essentially, putting an electrical current through them.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's a
slick.
we call it, well, I think everybody calls it anodizing,
Mhm.
tie-dizing. It's a plating process, and we love to have fun and put art on the bike. So it's beautiful.
Yes, no, we're really excited to partner with y'all and fortunate to have you really close to our headquarters, Working Triathletes headquarters, and um, we appreciate you taking the time to do this webinar. I mean, I don't know how many people were on the call here, but dozens of athletes are going to watch this, and if they have any questions, we'll obviously send them your way. I'll try to run interference if I can, but hopefully. Um, People will watch this and be encouraged to buy a new bike because everybody can use a new bike.
Yep, and all things bikes, swim gear, any of that.
Mm,
Feel free to send them our way. We've got the Team Connect form set up to get in
yep.
contact, or if they just want to send an email, we'll be as responsive as we can with that and help them get questions answered.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys so much. This was awesome. Truly, a truly great webinar, and well, I'm sure that we'll talk soon.
Awesome.
See you
Thank you,
guys.
All
Conrad.
right.
Thanks,
See you
guys.
guys. Thanks.
All right. Bye now.
Thank you guys.